Hey, how you doing? This is hopefully going to be a very quick video. This is just going to be attacking one claim that's constantly put out there by the Globe side of this argument. And it's an official claim, official Globe claim. But this is the destruction of it. Here you have west to east going this direction, east to west going this direction. You have direction of rotation, which would be this way, we west to east for this globe here. We have direction of plane 1, which would be this one going east to west. Direction of plane 2, which would be this one going west to east. Okay, we have position A and position B. And outside here we have this circle representing the globe's atmosphere. Now, there's a lot of things and a lot of ways this is attacked. The most obvious way is that if a plane is flying from position A, which is east, to position B is in the west, then the flight should be way shorter than if the plane is flying from west to east, right? This is an obvious thing, right? So the plane flying from west to east should never really get there because the rotation of the globe Earth underneath it is greater in its movement than the plane can fly. And the direction of the plane, airplane 1 should get there to their destination much sooner than we experience because it would be flying against the rotation of the globe, right? Now, we're told the reason that none of this happens, right, is due to the airplane, right, and everything else that's not attached to the surface of the globe. We're told, this is the claims we've been getting, that the atmosphere, as they call it, which is a load of air taking a shape on the outside of something that isn't containing it, is moving in lockstep with the surface of the Earth. So what's happening is we don't see drift because of this. We never see any drift because everything is moving together, right? It's nonsense, right? Total nonsense. But this is the problem. We know for definite that airplanes take off at the east coast of the United States and do fly and get to the west coast of the United States. And they do this within an allotted time, right? But depending on obviously whatever trade winds or anything else they deal with, and the speed that they travel at. But the main point of this video is for them to do that, right? They have to fly against the rotation of a globe, because if they had to move with the air, right? If they were moving with the air and the air was moving with a rotating surface underneath, then the plane would never be able to move from its position. It would start at position A, it would take off here, and it would be stuck there. It would have to just go with it. It could never get to a different destination. Whereas in reality, we know it does. So there's only two options. Either the planes are taking off at position A at the east coast of America and flying to position B at the west coast of America, and they're flying against this supposed lockstep air that's moving with the surface of a globe, right, to get to their destination, right, which will mean that, right, and which will mean that we will see drift, right, of the airplane, because anyone who is observing here, who is on the surface here of this globe, is going to see the plane that's flying east to west above them. They're going to see the drift of that plane. They're going to observe abnormalities, right? Visual abnormalities, the Coriolis effect. There's no way to not observe that, right? Because the planes do get from A to B. That would mean they have to be flying east to west. And that would mean that they would have to be flying against the rotation of the globe. Because if they had to stick with the rotation of the air that's supposedly the atmosphere that's supposedly rotating with the globe, then they couldn't get it. They couldn't leave position A. They'd be stuck at position A all the time. So consequently, either they are flying against the rotation of a globe, so we will observe drift, or there is no such thing as a globe Earth, and the Earth is not rotating, and all this is a load of rubbish because it's either one or the other. So it comes down to do we observe drift? No, we don't observe drift. We don't observe 15 degrees an hour of drift of an airplane, a helicopter, hot air balloon, drone, helium balloon. We don't observe any of that. So if any of that was happening, right? So if we were on a globe, Earth, and it was rotating, and an atmosphere rotated with it, it wouldn't make any difference to the fact that airplanes get from east coast at A to west coast at B, right? So there's no way for that airplane to get from A to B without flying against the rotation of a globe. If we were on a globe, there'd be no way for it not to. If airplanes get from A to B, and they do. But the byproduct of that is that we would have to see the drift. There'd be no way around it, right? So the claim that air moves in lockstep with a globe Earth, or the atmosphere, as they call it, moves in lockstep with a globe Earth, and that's why we don't see any drift, that is nonsense, because the airplane has to get from A to B, right? Which means it has to fly against the rotation of the supposed globe and the supposed lockstep rotation of the supposed atmosphere. We know the airplanes do get from A to B, from the east coast to the west coast. So that means they have to be flying against the rotation of a globe if we're on a globe, which means that we would have to be observing the drift. We would have to be. There'd be no way around it, because there's no way for the airplane to leave A if it has to stay within, if it's moving with a lockstep atmosphere. There'd be no way. It has to be moving with, it could never leave A. It would take off here and never go anywhere. So for it to get to B, it has to fly against that rotation. It has to fly through and against this claimed atmosphere that's supposedly moving west to east with the rotation of the globe. So if we observe drift, then there is evidence for a globe Earth. If we don't observe drift, then there is no evidence for a globe Earth. For rotation, there is no evidence whatsoever. Besides the fact that airplanes can't fly right around the globe Earth because they're not designed to do that. They have to fly in a horizontal fashion because otherwise they won't have lift. They won't have enough lift to do anything else. They can't fly below 0 degrees horizontal without being in a descent. They have to keep their nose and the chord line of the wings above 0 degrees horizontal. So, if besides that, right, besides that physics fact, right, of that aerospace physics fact, the point is that there is no way for airplanes to get from the east coast at A to the west coast at B of the United States, as they always do, without us observing the drift. It would be impossible, regardless of a lockstep rotating atmosphere, it would be impossible for us not to observe the drift. So if we're not observing the drift, then we're not rotating. Then there is no atmosphere. It's very simple. There is no globe. Thank you.